Hey, I'm McDonald, your real estate agent with Real Property Associates, and this is my Seattle real estate market update for the month of October 2018. Now, I've been doing these updates for about 2.5 years now. You can actually go back and look at them all on my YouTube channel, but I've done one of these every month, and one thing that I can say with a lot of confidence is the Seattle real estate market is different now than it was when I started doing these back in 2016. So the biggest thing I've seen is just the conversation I'm having with people in general as I'm, at the athletic club this morning working out. The guy next to me that I know is like, oh, how's business? How are things? And I'm like, oh, business is actually great. And he's like, well, man, the market certainly changed, hasn't it? And at an open house this weekend, one of the neighbors came over and was saying similar things. The market's different, and people know. And at this point, it's not like a secret. The market's a little different than it was the last few years. And quite frankly, we've lived through a pretty epic 20-ish months, but really last 4 or 5 years where the Seattle real estate market has just skyrocketed from where it was back in 2012 at the lows. That said, we'll talk a little bit more about where we are in the market now, but I want to share my story that I always share at the beginning of these market updates. And the story for this month is a story, actually some friends. So Ryan and Christina are some friends. Their house is closing today. I just haven't got the final notification yet. I'm looking at my watch. What is this? They came to me probably 4 months ago, and we were just kind of talking about the process. They were hoping maybe to move closer to family and decided pretty quickly to pull the trigger. And we listed their house in August. And as you know, if you've been watching my updates, the market was a little bit slower in August. We'd seen another house similar to theirs, been on the market for 20 days, hadn't sold yet. So we came on the market with that knowledge and actually ended up selling 19 days. So we were on the market for 19 days. A lot slower, though, activity than I'd seen on some of my other listings, and mainly attributed to the market, I would say, and the fact that Labor Day was part of that. But 19 days, just under asking price, and they're going to be walking away with a good amount of money to actually put down on another house purchase when they decide to make that next move. So excited for them. They're already a long way away. So if you're watching this update, which I think you probably are, hi, good to see you. Hope you guys are doing well. Now, let's talk about the market a little bit more. The median sales price in Seattle up about 5.6% from last year, same time last year, which is a little bit more in line with the traditional Seattle real estate growth. This area has always been a decent area to be, but it's never been in the past like just crazy growth like we've seen. Now, some of the suburbs like Edmonds and Shoreline are actually a little bit down from last year, and Linwood being up a little bit. And the in general feel here is even from the spring, we're substantially, we're down, we're lower than we were in the springtime, which is normal for this time of year, definitely. We call it the seasonal slowdown, but definitely a little bit more dramatic than we've seen in these last few years. Maybe what's more of a normal for Seattle, but not maybe a normal for what we've been accustomed to seeing. And really, we haven't been in a normal real estate market in a really long time, if you think about it. It's been at least 10 plus years since we've had a more normal real estate market. But even before the last downturn crash we had, it wasn't really a normal real estate market either. So, we're talking about 15, 18 years of kind of a crazy growth, crazy down, crazy growth, even more than we had before. But just trying to is it possible? Is it possible for us to have a more normal real estate market for a little while? Is it possible? Now, I find it fascinating, and in doing these videos, finally starting to get some feedback and engagement on these videos, which I love. But last month, I noticed a lot of negative feedback. Now, or at least more enthusiastic feedback. And what I find interesting is that now that it's a little bit, in 2016, everybody's like, thumbs up, Zach, you're right on. It's pretty easy to talk about a market that's clearly going up. But right now we're in a kind of a crossroads. The market has changed, definitely. We have a little bit more inventory, still favoring sellers though. And we have we have some buyers that are seriously like, let's kind of see what's going to happen here. So it's a little bit more difficult to talk about than just, up another 12% year over year. That's a pretty easy report to give, right? Rather than, we're only up 5%. It's a little different. Now, I think there's a few things that are going on right now. And we're just going to talk about the local market. Seattle, we had more new listings come on. So we had about 100 more listings roughly than we did last year at the same time, up about 22.5%. Pending sales were also down a little bit. So we had some more listings. We're down about 13% pending sales. So we had less homes that were essentially in the process of being sold. So what we have is actually an increase in amount of homes for sale, which is the word we call inventory. We have about 1,400 homes for sale, whereas last year we had about 800 homes for sale. So quite a big difference, a lot more supply. And we're seeing the similar trends in the suburbs, if not even a little bit more amplified. The other interesting thing is now that we have more homes for sale, we don't have as many of the bidding wars. So we have more homes that are staying on the market. And we're talking about, somewhere between, in Seattle, 12 days. And I'm looking here at my notes. Shoreline was 17 days, Edmonds 9 days, and Linwood 18 days, for the median days on market. So, and those are all up from 8, 9 as the days on market. So definitely up, right? A little bit longer time to sell. And so that's why I think we're at these prices. It's the biggest factor driving the price up is the competition, the supply and demand. And when you have less supply and you have the steady demand, then you're going to see multiple offers on houses, which is really what drives those prices up. We were seeing anywhere from, in this time of the year, 2 to 4% over asking price, kind of as an average. But some of the good homes were getting 10 to 15% over the asking price. Rarely was a house going below the asking price. And now we're seeing that median house, the median sales price is about the asking price, just underneath in some cases. The average is actually even a little bit lower than the asking price in all of Seattle and the suburbs that are surrounding it. So we're seeing it still favors a seller. It's not like you're getting a 10% discount on your house purchase, but the market's a little bit more equitable for buyers and sellers. So with that said, applications, the biggest thing I think that's really driving this is the increase in inventory, which I just mentioned, and then the interest rates. Interest rates are up substantially from where they were, but they're still relatively low. So we're still seeing they're not crazy high interest rates. We're talking about high 4s, generally speaking, but that's higher than what my interest rate was a few years ago. And that also affects affordability. So when you have more inventory and you have less affordability, you're going to see a little less craziness in a housing market, and that's what we've seen. So buyers, I'll speak to you first. I do really think that in the springtime, we're going to see prices climb again. I do think that as the winter kind of hits, we're going to see inventory go down a little bit. Supply is going to go down. And then going into the spring, we're not going to have 2.5 to 3 months of supply like we're seeing. So I think we're going to see less supply again and prices go up a little bit. I don't think we're going to see a 13% increase over last year. It'd be great to get back to where we were, even a little bit higher. But that's really what I do expect. I don't think, though, if you're a home buyer, that now is the time to, I don't think now is the time to make a purchase expecting to sell it in 2 years and make a profit. You've got that kind of 2-year tax, live in the house for 2 years, and then you can sell it without paying the capital gains if it's your owner-occupied house. I don't think that right now it's reasonable to expect that you're going to be able to turn a profit in 2 years. Now with 12% growth every year, it's a little bit easier to see that. But if we're talking about 4 to 5%, or maybe even we'll see a 2% thrown in there, it's going to be hard to make a profit, especially with closing costs, all the upfront fees that you have. Really, that break-even horizon is going to be a lot more like 4 to 5 years, which is realistically where it's at now. So I don't think, as a buyer, if you're thinking, hey, I'm going to come here, buy a house, and then in 2 years I'm going to sell it and make $150,000, That might have been the case in 2012 and 2013, but I don't think you're going to see that in the next few years. So if you're a buyer and that's your thought, I would say it's not time for you to buy. Now, if you're a buyer and you're thinking, I'm going to be here for the next 7 to 10 years, or that's my plan, or I'm going to hold on to this after I buy it, it's going to be a rental, and you're kind of starting your maybe real estate portfolio, so to speak, I think you're fine. I think this is a fine time to buy, specifically right now with prices coming down a little bit from their high in the spring. You've got kind of some uncertainty in the market, and interest rates are still relatively low. So as a buyer, it's really hard to time a market. It's really easy in hindsight to look back and go, oh, it's so obvious. 2012 was the best time to buy a house. And if you're buying a house, right, maybe you can look back and say, man, you paid more, but in 2007, people that bought a house then, their house is worth, at least in Seattle, a lot more than it was worth then. So you can look back in hindsight and say, well, okay, I guess that was a good decision. And I think that'll be the case for you as well now. So even looking into the future, I do think the next year-ish, year and a half, we're still going to see prices go up, more modestly at least. And I've shared this in my past videos, but I wouldn't say now's the time to buy and try to time the market and make a quick buck. I don't think that's where you're going to be, but the long-term investment is still, I think, a good idea. Now, if you're a seller and you're thinking of downsizing maybe, or even maybe buying a new house and selling your other one, this might be a good time. The next year or so, the spring being probably the ideal time, but now the next month or so before the holidays hit, because I think we are in a time where it's more uncertain, and I'm no prophet, so I can't make predictions with accuracy. I can give my opinion based on what I see and what I experience as a real estate agent, but I can't predict the future. But if I was to guess, I would say now in the next 8 months is going to be a better time to sell than waiting for 2.5 years. But I could be wrong. But as a seller, if you really do need to make a move in the near future, this might be the time to start thinking about it and having those conversations. So I hope this is valuable for you. I think I was a little more long-winded here than I was expecting to be, but I think it's all information and it's valuable for you. So I'll have another one of these for you next month. I think next month will be interesting to be able to look back and see, okay, are we continuing on this trend, or is inventory just continuing to flood? That'll be a big indicator for us. So please, I'd love for you to engage with this video, comment below, give it a like. If you are finding my content valuable, please subscribe to my channel, as I'll be posting one of these at least every month, but I post videos almost every day as well that I think you might find helpful. So thanks again, and we'll talk to you here soon.